questions to the Premier. Premier, as you know, at COP26, world leaders, including Prime Minister Scott Morrison, signed on to the Glasgow Declaration to halt and reverse forest loss. We understand from statements made following the declaration that your government doesn't believe it needs to change forest practices as a result in contravention of the climate science. But will you listen to leaders in the Tasmanian tourism industry, more than 180 of whom have signed on to a letter to you and your colleagues, the Minister for Tourism and Minister for Climate Change, calling for an end to the logging of high conservation value forests? And Mr Speaker, I seek the leave of the House to table that letter now, and copies have been distributed.
The question is that leave be granted. All those of opinion say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Thank you. Premier, like the Derwent Valley, tourism operators and agricultural producers heavily impacted by smoke from an escaped forestry Tasmania burn in March this year, these business owners regard industrial native forest logging as a threat to their tourism businesses, Tasmania's brand and the climate. Premier, if your government won't end the logging of this island's beautiful forests for the climate and young Tasmanians who are demanding it, will you listen to tourism operators, some of whom have joined us in the chamber today, who are pleading with you to act?
Good question.
Honourable Premier.
Yes. Don't exist. Another Dorothy.
Well, I thank the Leader of the Greens, Ms O'Connor, for that question, and I welcome those tourism operators to the chamber. It's an interesting question that you ask, because one of the examples, I think, of empirical evidence in the state in terms of where both forestry and tourism can coexist is in my own electorate, in terms of Derby.
They're about to log around Derby.
Order.
In fact,
are you serious?
In fact, one of the things I was, in fact, involved in many of those early discussions with both the tourism industry, the local council,
you've changed your mind.
the STT, albeit back then I think I was in opposition, and so it would have been Forestry Tasmania. And what was able to be achieved, Mr. Speaker, and I think very successfully achieved in Derby, was a coexistence.
That's right.
Something that demonstrated that we could have both tourism, but we could also have sustainable forestry.
It's not sustainable. It's nothing.
Mr. Speaker,
tourism in.
that and what I have witnessed, and what I have witnessed, Mr. Speaker, and I'm certain that again we will witness it post the 15th of December, is that people are voting with their feet.
Not to see logging
that
boots.
in terms of Derby, Mr. Speaker, that is an extraordinary example.
To log 3
that
groups
is an
around
extraordinary example of coexistence between the industry, tourism, and the forestry industry, Mr. Speaker. And as I've said, I have
Dr. Woodruff, you're on warning.
watched with amazement as people have beaten a path to Derby's door, Mr. Speaker, where there has been a coexistence of sustainable forestry and tourism, Mr. Speaker.
Well done,
we have watched that mining town, which was once decimated in terms of both population and economic opportunity, Mr. Speaker, spring to life, Mr. Speaker. Spring to life, Mr. Speaker, as hundreds of thousands of people from around this country and from around the world.
How does your brain do this?
Order. Ms O'Connor, why is it impossible for you to ask a question and then listen to the answer without interjecting? You're on a warning.
Point of clarification.
There is no such thing as a point of clarification.
Clarify.
There's no point of clarification.
There is 8 times on a question earlier this morning. I'm just wondering whether
that is not a point of order. Please sit down.
This issue.
Premier.
Different sets of rules.
Mr. Speaker, and again, acknowledging that we have tourism operators in the chamber, so I've witnessed myself the fact that coexistence can occur. And in terms of, you reached into COP.
Why don't you look at them as
you reached into COP in terms of the declaration. You are well aware that the land use clearing regime in this state changed over a decade ago. Over a decade ago. We don't cut forests down and not regrow them.
Exactly.
What we do,
They plant more trees than
Mr.
anyone
Speaker,
else.
is we engage in sustainable forestry in Tasmania, sustainable
Where in the world do
harvesting.
they do it
And again, as I say, I think all of us bring to this place our own lived experiences. And one of those lived experiences that I've had has been to watch what I would consider to be an economic miracle occur at Derby,
Tasmanian
Forest burned to the ground.
where we have witnessed the coexistence of tourism with sustainable forestry management, Mr. Speaker, and as I have indicated, the world and the broader country have voted with their feet in terms of that example, Mr. Speaker. And I would once again make the point that, and as I say, it didn't surprise me that you would reach into COP, but you know full well that what was signed at COP is something that this state put in place over a decade ago. Put in place over a decade ago, Mr. Speaker.
Well, point of order, Mr. Speaker.
On a point of order.
The Premier has misled the House. The COP agreement is about reversing
That's
forest loss.
that's not a point of order.
No idea.
No, it's not.
That's not a point of
It is
order.
not.
The Premier has the
We've got
floor.
a scientist here.
You should refer to the science. Why wouldn't you?
Order. The Premier has the call.
They're doing the work for your children.
Mr. Speaker, look, and I think in terms of forest loss, I think it is well understood that in this state we plant more trees than what we take.
What about the carbon loss?
We plant more trees than what we take, Mr. Speaker. And so, again, in terms of the Leader of the Greens tabling of her letter, the position that she brings to this place, I would make the point that I believe very firmly that forestry, sustainable forestry and tourism can coexist, and that there are examples, I think world-leading examples, of where that occurs right here in this state, Mr. Speaker, and those examples are well understood by both the world and by those in the country, Mr. Speaker, because as I've said, not only have they beaten the path to our door prior to the 15th of December, but I expect post the 15th of December, Mr. Speaker, they will continue to come and they will continue to revel in what is, I think, one of the best examples of a coexistence of two industries in the world.